Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Coming up on the program, it's now down to the wires for politicians contending for a seat at the state and national assemblies as INEC and security agencies fine-tune last-minute preparations for Saturday's rerun and by-elections. President Bola Tinubu orders the arrest of perpetrators of a Ekiti attack that led to the death of 2 monarchs. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, appeals to citizens not to give up on the call for national unity and cohesion if Nigeria is to make significant strides. Thanks again for joining us. The call for peace and unity by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, is where we'll begin the tracking of the polity from on the program today. Senator Akpabio was speaking at the chairman of the occasion for the 80th birthday celebration of His Eminence John Cardinal Onaikan in Abuja, where he seeks national cohesion to curb conflict. The event had in attendance top dignitaries, including former head of state General Yakubu Gowon, who also appeals to Nigerians to shun tribal and religious bigotry.
To unite people from all walks of life, even though sometimes for those of us who are politicians, when he starts speaking, we hold our breath. His words have the power to heal, to bridge divides, and to ignite the flames of hope in even the darkest of times. His sermons have touched the hearts of millions, reminding us of our shared humanity and the inherent dignity that resides within each and every one of us.
Well, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, to ensure that all persons involved in the Ekiti state security breaches are apprehended and made to face the full wrath of the law. A statement by the First Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says the President's directive was conveyed during the visit of the Ekiti State Governor, Mr. Abiodun Oyebanji, and the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, to the Inspector General of Police at the force headquarters. According to him, the IGP is committed to addressing the challenges, ensuring that the perpetrators are brought to book and the kidnapped pupils rescued and hurt, which is why the IGP has ordered, among other things, the deployment of police helicopters, armored personnel carriers for the special operations. Now, whilst the IGP and his team are on the hunt for the attackers in Ekiti, he has also ordered the restriction of all forms of vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation from 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Election Day in the 26 states where rerun and by-elections will be taking place in less than 24 hours. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the First Public Relations Officer, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says those on essential duties are exempted from the order.
We are giving this warning on time so that those states that are not affected or they are not involved in the process will be able to plan their movements on time. If you know the neighboring state is affected, you should be able to plan your movement, because definitely they will not allow any movement into the states where elections are being conducted. So the message is going out on time. Today is Thursday. They have two days to plan ahead, because it's going to be on Saturday, February 3rd, 2024. There is no how, because what cuts across 26 states of the Federation may affect, invariably, is affecting the whole nation. That is the truth, because most of these states affected definitely border some of the states that are not even concerned in at all, or not involved in the process. So it's as if that the whole nation is involved, because there's no how this restriction of movement will not affect some states that are not involved in this process at all. So those states that are not involved in the electoral process should know that there will be restriction of movement in 26 states, which of course may invariably affect their movement.
So as we said, it's down to the wires. In less than 24 hours, in 26 states of the Federation, people will be going out to vote in the by and rerun elections as organized by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Some of those states have been listed to include places like Benue, places like Kebbi, Lagos, Ondo, and all of that. So that's what you're seeing on your screen. Yes, that's it. Those are the states according to their regions: Southwest, South, and Southeast. 3 states in the Southwest, 4 in the South. And the Northwest has majority of the states now. North Central as well has about 4, and 5 elections will be taking place in the Northeast. So those are the places where these elections will take place. The next one shows where the by-elections, which are basically either the person died or the person resigned, like the people who are appointed ministers whose seats are now vacant. So those are the areas for those pictures you can see showing the number of voter cards collected and voter details and all of that. Hey, so that's going to be the fulcrum of our conversation. I'm being joined now on the program as we talk about the preparations for tomorrow's exercise by 2 persons. Mr. Kingsley Uzoma, who is a security expert. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Kingsley is an election observer and a security expert. Thank you for coming on the program.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Also joining us from via Zoom from Abuja is Okwayemi Aruna. She is the program officer for Yaga Africa. Thank you so much, Okwayemi, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okwayemi, I want to start with you because I know Yaga has done deployment and all of that. So preliminary observations is where I want to start from in terms of INEC preparations. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How are preparations?
So I think so far INEC has demonstrated readiness to conduct the elections across the state. The Commission has successfully implemented key preparatory activities ahead of the elections and also within the scheduled time. Activities such as the publication for the election, stakeholders briefing, training of ad hoc staff, and distribution of election observation kits. Yes, and similarly, Yaga Africa has also received reports on the deployment of sensitive and non-sensitive materials to all these locations. So I think so far so good. INEC is on the right track.
So in terms of, I'll stay with you just on one more before I go to Mr. Uzoma. In terms of voter turnout, are you hearing or seeing anything that will spur people to come out and vote? Because we understand that when it comes to election, general elections is where a lot of buzz comes alive. And after that, when it comes to this rerun and rerun or by-elections, sometimes you don't get as much energy as possible. So what is being done to make sure that the people understand the importance of the legislature to come out and decide who represents them either in the state assembly or in the national assembly?
Okay, so far I think voter turnout is projected to be low because I doubt people will actually come up for these elections from the look of things. Not even a lot of people know that these reruns and by-elections are going to happen. So I think we need to do more in terms of putting it out there. We need to work more and partner with the political parties. I haven't seen much rather from the political parties themselves and the candidates who are taking part in these reruns and the by-elections. So voter turnout is definitely going to be low. We won't see much participation from citizens. And this also can be attributed to various factors, such as distrust, such as insecurity, fear of insecurity and violence on election day. So these are things that will naturally make people stay away from these elections.
Ms. Uzoma, that comes to you. I don't know whether you agree with her as far as this projection of low voter turnout is concerned. I'm looking at for the by-election on my tab where PVCs collected in the South, yes, in Ebonyi, and in the senatorial election, it comprised about almost 1 million people. Aside the registered voters. When you come to federal constituencies for the by-election alone, it's about 700,000. And when you go to the state constituencies, almost 500,000. So do you also agree that the voter turnout will be low?
Yes, I quite agree because there are several factors that attribute to that. In the last couple of days, I've been able to visit Ebonyi. Yesterday, I toured across the by-election area, that's through Lagos. So there is a kind of what I call misfeelings in terms of the people, the expected voters, okay, because of the socioeconomic and political situations. So we expect low turnout because not everyone is aware that they're going to be by-election. And I give you a case, like in the case of Surulere, is where you have Gwadabi Amila, who resigned for his post as a chief of staff to the president. That Surulere constituency one is known as APC stronghold. So it's as good as when you X-ray it, there is no even opposition. So the people are not concerned of election because they already know who's gonna win the election. They presume, okay? Then when you go to Ebonyi, there is also a similar factor. Then in other areas, people like sort of, oh, there is hunger. They are more important on looking at what to eat, how to feed their family as against turning out for election. So it might be a situation whereby 70% of the voters will be party members, okay, while the other 30% will be randomly those who feel like in one way or the other they were canvassed directly by friends or co-workers based on this vote buying, quote and unquote, to participate.
Akwemi, let me come to you. I know you've answered in passing, but I want to zoom in a little further. How dangerous is it for us as a democracy when our people, for sundry reasons and within their rights, we must say, decide to shun national or state assembly elections? How bad is it for our democracy?
I think it sets us back in terms of where we have gotten in the last couple of years. It sets us back, truthfully. It's a dangerous precedent because we're seeing more and more people become disenfranchised, become disenchanted, more like, from actually taking part. They have no connection to the government. They have no connection to the political happenings in the state. If this actually continues, we're going to see a trend where the people don't care. They won't care about the politics. They won't care about the elections. They won't care about who represents them. And that will put us in a situation where it's almost chaotic, where we're having politicians who just run things and do what they want. So we need to find a way and readdress or go back to what actually worked before for us and see how people can now become more interested in taking part in the electoral process and in political participation also.
To you, let's do a bit of, I know we did this last time, but maybe there's an update. Let's do a bit of security mapping, Uzoma. What are you seeing or hearing is the way I like to ask those questions. Because as you both have mentioned, security is one of the concerns besides confidence and the level of awareness. So are there places where there's a bit of a concern in terms of what security may look like on Saturday, which is tomorrow?
Yes, it has become a norm for us in Nigeria that during elections, there are anticipated areas of security concern. Although it should be low now, looking at the elections, it's by-election, senatorial, and the federal constituency assemblies and what have you, given the size of the election. But those hot areas are still the gray areas for the security agencies to handle. But another aspect we have to consider is the fact that, yes, the Inspector General of Police has placed maybe a partial curfew, let me use that word, from 12 midnight to 4 p.m. or thereabout. But again, that raises the question, is actually election civic responsibility, not war? Can't we test in a state like Lagos State, for instance, the Surulere constituency, where we have partial restriction of movement? As a let's test it, because people should be able to freely cast their vote and go away. That you might restrict movement of commercial vehicle and certain things, but from 12 to 4 and other, by now we should have overcome instances like that. Does the election call for the use of air surveillance and all that in a senatorial zone? The answer is no. If the politicians are doing the needful, there won't be need to stress security agencies or implementing a partial restriction of movements, whereby the actual things, the triggers of this electoral violence has not been properly taken care of.
Akwemi, Ms. Ozoma just drew my attention to something, and I'm looking at it again because we read the story, and the first PRO mentioned it, that in states where these elections are taking place, its premise actually is the fact that if elections are taking place in 26 states, it's as good as the entire Nigeria, although there are isolated cases like Lagos, Surulere. I'm not sure whether this is whether I'm right or wrong, but is it okay to put restriction on movement when elections are taking place in an area and you put a restriction on movement in an entire state? Is that what this is?
I think our elections have become over militarized, if I'm to say that. Security agencies across a state for just one constituency, I think is saying too much. We can actually conduct elections with just minimal security, but based off of precedents, we know how most of these elections tend to go, where certain individuals will just come out and become violent for no reasons. So maybe that's another reason why they are putting in curfew, to curb that aspect of insecurity that they expect to happen on that day. But I feel like it's just one constituency, like you said, in Lagos, that is having that election. They can as well just have just a handful of security personnel deployed to that place to maintain peace and order, not shut down the entire state. You're essentially shutting down the economic hub of the other people as well. Livelihoods will be affected. People who want to move about their daily activities will be affected on that day. We don't need to actually shut down the entire state because of one constituency or elections that are happening here and there. We don't need to do that.
Ms. Ozoma, so you're the security man, so that we don't make mistakes. The states will be shut down because of a constituency election? Is that what this is?
No, the state is not going to be shut down, okay? For the senatorial zone, like Ebonyi State, that aspect, all those areas, all those local governments that are covered by that senatorial zone will be shut down. For Surulere, I visited INEC today. So is Surulere constituency one that movements will be restricted, okay? But technically, as it applies to Surulere, the entire Surulere constituency, both 1 and 2, will be on partial lockdown. But the question is election, not war, over militarized? You can actually use Lagos, a mega city, as a case study, especially in this particular by-election, to test run in Surulere, where for election can be held, the by-election in constituency 1, without total lockdown, as the case is. Rather, because these agents of violence, they are not those who are not stakeholders or voters, no. Political thugs are recruited by political parties and candidates. They are not fighting for the entire citizens of Lagos State, residents of Lagos State, or Nigerians. They are fighting for interest of their paid master, who belongs to political parties, who have interest. So the security agencies should look more deeply into the activities, the affairs of these political parties and their candidates, if we must have free and fair election and lesser burden for the security agencies. And we should also move away in terms of security from that trend where it seems, quote and unquote, like security agencies are loyal to the government in power. No, you must be neutral and answerable to Nigerians as the Constitution mandated the operation.
Let me come to you as we begin to wind down on this particular issue. Are you confident that the people, or do you think that the people are confident that their votes will count? It doesn't matter how small or insignificant the number of people that turn out tomorrow will be? From the
I
voter
want to
perspective.
believe the people will be confident that their votes will count, seeing how prepared INEC has been for this by-election and the reruns. I want to be hopeful. I want to be hopeful, truthfully. What will determine if the people are confident to be the conduct on that day, that which is tomorrow, how INEC will conduct itself and how security personnel and the parties will also conduct themselves.
Ms. Ozoma, there was thanks, Okpeyemi. Ms. Ozoma, there was a concern raised by a police officer. I think when we just started the conversation around to start some level of immediate reforms of the Electoral Act, where we saw lacuna, and part of the provisions of the law says that the policeman who is attached to the polling unit may not be able to act except on the instruction of the polling officer who is conducting the election. And it was raising questions as to what happens when the polling officer is the one guilty or the perpetrator of the crime. How do they want to reconcile that with this particular election? I know it's not the general election, but we can begin to make those corrections now.
So that's what I said. We can begin to make those corrections. So ideally, every police officer or the leader of a team of security personnel at a given polling unit should have body cameras to record the events. Okay, when you see that things, that's why you are the police, you are the enforcer of the law. INEC ad hoc officers do not enforce laws. They are not law enforcement agents. It is the duty of the police officer deployed at the polling unit to be able to spot something, report it, apprehend, and arrest.
I must thank you both so much for coming on the program. A quick one, if you can do this in 10 seconds, Okpeyemi, what will Yaga and the rest of you guys be looking out for tomorrow?
Okay, so for tomorrow, Yaga will be deploying accredited citizen observers to observe the by-elections in 4 states, and what we'll be looking out for will be the opening by INEC, the time of arrival, the accreditation and voting process, and also the counting process. We'll also be looking out for incidences, and yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Okpeyemi Aruna, Program Officer of Yaga Africa, as well as Mr. Kingsley Uzoma, always coming through. It's an election observer and security expert. Thank you both for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
All right. So just before we take our next story as we begin to wrap up, I would like my producer to put up the states where these elections are taking place. Our responsibility to remind people, because some people don't even know elections are taking place in their state. So forget the slides of the states. Yes, those are the states. 3 in the southwest, 4 in the south-south, 3 in the southeast. So look at your states, if they're there, and find out the constituency. We don't have all that list right here. North Central, Northwest, Northeast. So those are the states that will be going out to either vote in the by or rerun elections. So, hey, we needed to do that. So we understand 26 states will be going out to vote. Now, moving on, a Benue State High Court has restrained the suspended state chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Austin Gada, from parading himself as the chairman of the party, following his suspension by his ward chairman and 6 others, Mr. Godwin Abba, on Tuesday. This comes as the APC in the state has accused the chief of staff to the governor of Benue State and the Commissioner for Water Resources and Environment of leading policemen and the army to attack the party secretariat. That's an allegation during a press conference by the Wukpa Ehaji Ward 1 chairman and his executive members. Pandemonium broke out when security men in plain clothes invaded the venue of the press conference, attacking all in sight. That's what is being reported. The APC chairman of Wukpa Ehaji explained that the entire ESCO were at the party secretariat to pass a vote of confidence on the chairman and distance themselves from the 7 people who suspended the chairman on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the state party chairman, Mr. Austin Agada, told journalists that the plot to forcefully remove him as chairman over allegations of anti-party activities that failed was a reason for the attack.
It was was very, very wrong. It's amounted to criminality because he's no longer a chairman. I am the chairman. And we are here in solidarity with all my ward ESCOs. Look at them. And the leaders of the parties, Professor Obute, Right Honorable Teresa Moha, and others, to come and pass vote of confidence on Comrade Austin Agada as the chairman of APC Benue State. We are also here in solidarity to pass vote of confidence on our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because of his good work.
From all the information I have, no meeting was held, and what was done was a pure charade. And you can see for yourself, if what they did was valid, why was this gathering disrupted? We are witnesses to what happened. If their conscience is clear, why send a multitude of policemen to come and destroy the proceedings in this place.
So that's a incident that preceded that very court action that we just read out to you and all of that. So, hey, we'll continue to follow all of this. Meanwhile, Justice Mobolaji Olajuwon of the Federal High Court in Abuja has declined to dismiss the terrorism offenses brought against the current Chief of Staff to the River State Governor, Mr. Edison Ehie. Justice Olajuwon held that Ehie, who was the then Speaker of the River State House of Assembly, lacked legal powers to request for dismissal of the charges. Justice Olajuwon upheld the submission of the counsel to the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Simon Lau, that Ehie was not yet competent to make any application until he appears in court to make his plea in the terrorism charges. Mr. Ehie, through his lawyer, Oluwole Aladeye, had applied that the criminal charges against him and others be dropped on various grounds. He claimed that the Federal High Court in Abuja has no jurisdiction to entertain the trial because the alleged offenses were committed in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. His request was, however, opposed on the ground that he had not yet appeared before the court to take his plea. In a brief ruling, Justice Olajuwon dismissed the request of the Speaker or the former Speaker and upheld the argument of the Inspector General of Police. The 7-count charges, the defendants were accused of committing alleged terrorism offenses by invading, vandalizing and burning down the River State House of Assembly in the wake of the political crisis that rocked Port Harcourt in October last year. More stories now. The trial of Ahmed Idris, a former Accountant General of the Federation, on alleged 109 billion naira corruption charge at the Federal High Court, a Federal Capital Territory High Court, has been adjourned to March the 20th following the completion of a cross-examination of the first prosecution witness. Mr. Idris is being tried alongside 3 others by the EFCC for the alleged diversion of 109 billion naira. During the proceedings, the witness admitted that the former Accountant General didn't have a lawyer with him when his statements were taken during investigation by the Anti-Graft Agency. The trial judge, Yusuf Alilu, also admitted as evidence a video tendered by the counsel to the EFCC, Mr. Rotimi Jacobs. He said the said video is an interview session of Mr. Idris and 2 other accused persons, a recording done with the use of a smartphone without their knowledge. And that's it on the program for today and the week. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Have a great week.